Good afternoon. I'm Meteorologist Chris Ramirez with the KHOU 11 weather team. I am tracking the potential for some showers and some rainfall that's going to come into the picture starting on tomorrow. We actually can see some of those showers as early as tonight in the overnight hours. But for today, those temps very chilly, highs only reaching in the 40s for this afternoon. Looking on radar, we are seeing a lot of cloud cover across southeast Texas, as well as some possible precipitation. And even though if you have an iPhone, might showing some snow and some flurries out on that hourly forecast. And I gotta, of course, disappoint you and say that we are not expecting snowfall here across the Houston area. The reason being is because we are very dry here at the surface, and also the temperature is above freezing. But that doesn't mean that precipitation is falling in the upper levels of the atmosphere, as well as possibly some below freezing temperatures. But those dew points are in also the 20s, indicating some very dry weather across the area. Temps right now 40 degrees in Hobby, Bush at 40 degrees. And like I said, those dew points extremely dry, so any precipitation falling in the upper levels of the atmosphere is not making it to the surface, even though you might see those snowflakes out on your hourly forecast if you have an iPhone. But let's get to what's really important, the significant rainfall for this week. We are expecting showers to begin as tonight, becoming heavy on Monday. We could see up to 3 to 6 inches of rainfall expected through Wednesday, and this is a total accumulation of the entire rain event from Monday through Wednesday. And also isolated flooding could be possible as we head into the start of our week. So as you look at that rainfall, Monday is going to be the day where we're going to see most of that rain activity. So if you're heading off to work, you might want to stay up to date with the latest weather forecast and the latest weather happenings, because Monday is looking really messy across Houston. We're going to see those showers lingering into Tuesday and then lingering into Wednesday. We might get another batch of heavier showers through the middle of the week and then eventually tapering off by Thursday and Friday. We are expecting a rather warming trend as we head into the next few days, but this is all thanks to us being in an El Nino climate right now. We are expecting, we have a southern level of that Pacific jet, and when that happens, we have a stormier and wetter than normal period, and that's exactly what we're seeing as we head into the next 2 to 3 days. That southern jet dipping southward and bringing in all that moisture out from the west. There's a lot of disturbances that are going to be moving through the area. So that rain chance starting as early as tonight, going into until Tuesday and Wednesday. But as we look at the big picture, the next few days looking very wet as we head into Monday and Tuesday. Periods of rain expected through Wednesday. So the middle of the week is where we're going to see some of this heavier rain activity, and eventually tapering off by Thursday, like I just mentioned. But let's time this out for you using our future track. We are expecting that rain potential to be in the picture at least by the later hours for today. So I'm going to go ahead and back this up just a little bit and showing you when we're going to start seeing that precipitation across the area. So as early as 9:30 tonight, we're going to see some of these showers approaching in from the west. It's not going to be as heavy for tonight, but it will start getting heavy once we head into the morning hours for Monday, looking at a batch of heavy rainfall for the Houston area. So if you're off to work at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, off to school, if you are, of course, taking the kids to school, just keep in mind that we are expecting some heavy rainfall across the area. So we just got out of dealing with the winter weather. Now we're dealing with this potential soaker of a rainfall event for tomorrow. And this is going to be lasting at least all day until the later hours of around 5 to 6 o'clock in the evening. So we could still see some heavier downpours across the area going into later in the evening hours. Tapering off by Tuesday, but likely we are going to see those lingering showers in the overnight lasting through Tuesday as a series of those disturbances are going to be moving in from the west. That's going to bring us that rain chance. So looking at the overall picture of the total forecasted rainfall for Monday alone, we could get up to 3 to 4 inches of rain across southeast Texas. Just keep in mind that we could be looking at some flooding on roadways. We could use the rain. The bayous and the lakes are just really not that full. We haven't had really significant rainfall in quite some time. But just keep in mind that if you have a lot of rain falling in a little amount of time, that usually starts rising the flooding threat for the area, especially ponding on roadways there. So definitely not good news if we're getting a large amount of rain in a little amount of time because it doesn't have room to drain off. Also, to keep in mind that the recent Arctic blast has definitely killed a lot of vegetation, a lot of grasses in the area. So that vegetation that usually likes to soak up that rain is not really there. So we're going to have a high level of runoff from heavy rain if it does fall in those later hours for Monday, and that could potentially lead to more flooding concerns. But looking at the total event through Wednesday, we could get up to 5 to 6 inches of rainfall across southeast Texas, mostly, like I said, happening on Monday. It will be in the picture through Tuesday, and then another batch of rain expected for Wednesday. So the Storm Prediction Center is including all of southeast Texas under a slight risk for flooding. That is a 2 out of 4 on the flood index scale there, but definitely expecting those conditions to be rather wet. So some important checklists: check those tires, check those wipers, as well as check that tire thread. You don't want to be driving around on tires that have been bare or been heavily used, because we could see some sliding on roadways, as well as clear those drains in and around your home, because that could prevent some of that minor flooding across the area. So those high temps, like I said, we are going to be wet, but those temperatures are just really not going to be all that cold like we've been experiencing. This is our last really chilly day, but those highs are going to be in the upper 60s and 70s through the rest of the work week. So definitely expecting those conditions to become fairly wet for tomorrow, lasting through Tuesday and into Wednesday. So if you're just now joining me, I'm going to go ahead and back it up here a few slides just to show you exactly what we're looking at for today. So I started off talking about the potential for snow in Houston. Not really the case. I have an iPhone and it's showing that it's snowing outside. That's definitely not the case. We might be seeing some wintry precip in the upper levels of the atmosphere, but it's far too dry at the ground level, at the surface of the earth. And whatever's falling is being evaporated by the time it hits the ground. So you're able to actually see some of that precip on radar, but this is really not making it to the ground because we are so dry at the surface. Temperatures are also above freezing, so any snow, not really the case. Definitely don't see that at 42 degrees. Right now we're in the low 40s. It has to be 32 degrees or lower to see any of that snowfall for us here. So not snow, not really likely, even though some of those weather apps are showing that it's snowing. And like I said, dew points dry. If you have dew points in the 20s, that's indicating that the air this is like desert weather right there, looking how dry it is. And going into the significant rainfall for this week, showers will begin tonight. We are expecting that atmospheric moisture content to start increasing as we head into the afternoon hours, but becoming heavy for Monday. 3 to 6 inches of rainfall expected through Wednesday. This is a total amount of rainfall starting on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. When you add up all the rain that we're expected, that's the forecasted amount, 3 to 6 inches of rain, with isolated flooding possible in some locations, especially those areas, those problematic areas. You know where they are around Houston. You know where those flooded roadways usually occur. Keep in mind that we might see some issues on those roadways, all thanks to the significant rainfall that could fall tomorrow. So looking at that rain in the forecast, most of that rain activity happening on Monday, lingering into Tuesday, but we could get a batch of more showers for Wednesday. But this is all thanks to us being in an El Nino. During the fall and winter, we get stormier and wetter conditions than normal, all thanks to that Pacific jet. Usually it goes up, towards Oregon, northern California. Now it's dipping down south. The reason why it's always rainy out in Seattle is because that Pacific jet goes up towards the north. But during El Nino, it's dipping south, giving us all of the wet weather. And that's the setup that we're looking at for the next 2 to 3 days for this weather event, all thanks to that jet stream, those jet stream winds, of course, splitting off and giving us that wet pattern starting on Monday and lasting through Wednesday. As we look at future track, we can see some of the showers from this next event starting as early as tonight. Some isolated showers as early as 9:30 in the evening, and then lasting through the overnight and morning hours. But the bulk of this rainfall, we are expecting most of this rainfall to occur in the early morning hours of Monday. So Monday morning's looking very messy. You might want to give yourself extra time getting to your destination. might want to take the kids to school because it's looking rather wet, as we could be looking at some heavy rainfall moving through the Houston area as early as 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and those batches of showers lasting through the midday hour. Pack your lunch if you're going to work or school, because you probably are going to be dealing with this weather conditions, not favorable for travel during the midday. We are going to still see some of these showers lasting at least through 5 p.m. So on your way home, we're still going to be dealing with wet roadways and some isolated downpours, but most of that rain in the early morning hours between 9 and 10 through the midday is when we're expecting to see those conditions of course, be very rainy and very wet across the area. So as looking at the total forecasted rainfall, we could see up to 3 to 4 inches of rain on Monday alone. That is really could bring some ponding on roadways, some minor flooding in some locations, but it takes a good 6 to 7 inches of rain in one given time to start causing significant problems for the Houston area. So even though we might get 6 to 7 inches of rain through Wednesday, it depends on how much rain falls in the short amount of time. If we get a short amount of rainfall at 6 to 7 inches, that's going to cause problems, but 3 to 4 inches might see some ponding on roadways in some problematic areas across the Houston area, especially where you have those road problems. But going into looking at through Wednesday, we could get up to 4 to 6 inches of rain. This is through Wednesday. Total amount of rainfall accumulations Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And the Storm Prediction Center giving us that slight risk for flooding. That's a 2 out of 4. As well as that rainy checklist. Check those wipers. It's going to be rainy outside. Make sure your car is in good working order today. This is the last time you're going to have before this rain comes in. Check that tire thread. You don't want to be slipping and sliding across the area, especially if you try to stop. And also give yourself enough space in front of you if you are making your way to work, and give yourself enough time, because if you're running late, you might run into some issues if you are traveling across Houston, and clearing those drains across your homes could prevent some of that flooding potential, as well as we are going to be dealing with those warmer temperatures. But for the next 7 days, expect those temps to remain warmer than what we've seen. We're not expecting any below freezing temperatures anymore, at least for the next 7 days. This is the only day we're going to see those chilly conditions. So Sunday, of course, today, very chilly, rainy tomorrow, lasting through Wednesday, tapering off by Thursday and Friday, as well as weather models are indicating that we could be looking at a wet start to our weekend with another weather system on the way for Saturday. So of course, you definitely want to stay up to date with the latest weather happenings here across the Houston area, and you could definitely do that by downloading the KHOU 11 weather app, as well as following myself, meteorologist Pat Kavlin, meteorologist Kim Castro, Cheetah Craft, as well as David Paul, Chief Meteorologist David Paul, and Meteorologist Cheetah Craft on our social pages, because we're always putting out information there across the area. So definitely a very wet outlook starting on Monday, lasting through Wednesday, and we could be looking at a very wet commute to work for tomorrow. So be safe out there, and of course, always stay up to date on KHOU.com, especially for the latest weather happenings here in the Houston area.